Hi, I'm Annie Botticelli, and welcome to my November 2019 horoscope report for you. This month we have double the sweet aspects compared to the salty ones, and when that happens, it sets a mood for the general transits that's harmonious and happy. And we have Mercury retrograde, and Mercury in retrograde brings things from the past back into the forefront. So when we have the combination of sweetness in the stars and Mercury retrograde, it tends to bring sweet things from the past, happiness from the past, projects from the past, and even work that was done in the past coming to fruition or outcomes coming in a wonderful way. So we have all of that as an increased possibility in store. The mood of the month is very much still dominated by Scorpio because most of the personal planets are putting their energy through that filter, and that means it's a lot of emotional intensity. So it's definitely an emotional month, but it's definitely a good sign that there are more sweet aspects because the chance for breakthroughs are much more likely when that happens. We have Sag energy starting to dribble in, and so Sagittarius tends to show us the light at the end of the tunnel, especially when it's happening amidst this emotional time. So if you've been moving through an emotional tunnel, the Sag light at the end will start to become more apparent, and towards the end of the month that will get stronger and set us up for the Sagittarius party that is going to happen in December. So the mood will definitely start to lighten throughout the month. Something else huge that we have going on is one of my favorite aspects of the whole year, which is the Venus-Jupiter conjunction. So we're going to talk about what that can bring in general, and we're also going to zero in on your personal chart to see what field of experience that's going to occur, so you know where extra goodies can be from that aspect. I'll also share that date. I'm going to share with you all of the dates that are challenging, all of the dates that are sweet, so that you can mark them in your calendar. Also, we have eclipse rumblings. The eclipses are going to start showing up in big ways. December and January, we have eclipses, but we can often see manifestations, news, trajectory changes from the eclipses at least 4 to 6 weeks before they occur. That's why I always talk about them early, because here in November, we are very likely to see things coming in from that December eclipse. So I'm going to give you more information about that, a lot of information about the eclipse cycle so you can understand it for your patterns and your storylines. And I'll also, again, zero in on where exactly, what field of experience in your chart you will see this eclipse manifest and what kinds of things I've tended to see go along with that. I'm an astrology teacher, so I always use the charts to show you why things may happen instead of just what may happen. So if you want to learn, you're definitely in store for a wonderful learning experience. You can go to my website, anniehelpsyou.com, to see many more free blogs. I also have tons of other resources on there, including signing up for my free email newsletter, which gets you a general transit write-up of all the dates, all the aspects that are notable, and what you can expect from them 1 month early in your inbox. And if you love how I teach and you want to learn, you can see my astrology apprenticeship program at anniehelpsyou.com, as well as my other offerings. And definitely check out my book, Radical Prayer, Transform Your Life and the World in 28 Days, a wonderful spiritual companion for anyone who's seeking and who wants to create the life of their dreams. So you can go to radicalprayerbook.com. So let's see what the stars have in store for you. Hello, Libra friends. Many of the things I talk about in this segment will be true for all Libra placements, but there will be places I will drill down into more details about where in the Libra spectrum you are and how things can manifest differently for you. So let's see where you are at. Early Libra are pretty much our September born, or 0 to 9 degrees. Middle degree, around October 1st through 10th, or 10 to 19 degrees. And late, it's around October 11th through the rest of the sign, or 20 to 29 degrees. If you have your moon in Libra, Libra rising, or your sun in Libra, then this report is for you. The solar chart, based on the sun, the moon chart, based on the moon, and the rising chart, which is based on your natal chart, are all windows that we look out of to see what our experience is like. And sometimes the things going on out those windows are different, but they're still happening at the same time, and they still are layers of truth of the total picture. So I always recommend you watch at least for your rising and sun. If you want to throw the moon in there, I've heard a lot of people say that they have resonance for watching their moon charts as well. Okay, so the 3 things I'm going to talk about today have to do with just the general climate of the aspects this month and how that can affect Libras. The second thing is I want to talk about one of my favorite aspects of the year, which is the Venus-Jupiter conjunction and where that's going to occur for you. And the third thing I want to talk about is the eclipse that is occurring in December, but you're very likely to start feeling that in November, which is why I talk about it early so that you understand what's going on. Eclipses are very, very intense astrological experiences. They're not just astronomical. And their effects last a long time. They take place over cycles of time. So I'm going to give you a lot of information about this eclipse cycle, where we're at in the eclipse cycle, and how you may see manifestations specifically for you. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is that we still have a lot of energy of the personal planets. So the Sun, Mercury, and Mars will get there also, moving through Scorpio. In general, this is not the most, let's say, harmonious aspect, because Libra energies are air energies, Scorpio energies are water, emotional energies, and those don't typically blend very well. So what you'll be asked to do this month is to deal with emotions of your own or other people's emotions in ways that may be a little intense, but they can also be very healing and create breakthroughs in many different areas of your life. So you'll be forced kind of to get out of the mental realm and get more into the realm of emotion. And sometimes that can be a little uncomfortable, but that's just what's going on right now. Now, at the same time, Venus, right from the beginning of the month, has gotten into Sagittarius. And that is, I would say, I don't like to really judge good or bad, but we'll say that that's more light and more conducive to how you are, and that flows more readily with your placements. So as Venus goes through all the sign of Sagittarius in this month, it will kiss your Libra placement sometime this month. So every Libra placement will get this beautiful 60-degree angle kiss from Venus. And Venus rules love, beauty, and money, or I'm going to be talking about that a lot today. So I love that for you. Whenever we have a nice mathematical aspect with our own placement, it's like kisses. That's what I always call it. And remember, these 60-degree angles are the ingredients on the counter aspect. So you've got the ingredients for cherry pie. I think my cherries are getting more and more weird over time. But anyway, you have all the ingredients for the pie on the counter, but you might have to make the pie. So sometimes these angles can bring sweet things that you've already, from work you've already done or things you've already put in place. Sometimes you may have to do something with them. And since Mercury is a retrograde most of the month, so from October 31st through November 20th, you may not know exactly what to do with the things that come in. You might have to sit for a little bit for the rest of November, a little bit into December, to understand the full context of the opportunity that's coming and to be most clear about agreements or what you can do with what has come in. Or some of the things might just be sweet blessings. They happen. It's out of your control, but you enjoy it, and you can just let them roll in. If it's low stakes, one of the big rules for Mercury retrograde is if it's low stakes or short term, then don't worry about it, because Mercury retrograde rules low stakes short term. So any opportunity that comes in that's not really a big deal, it's just something nice, you don't have to worry about the transit. Just know that you might not be seeing the whole picture. That's why, for the longer term agreements, sometimes it's better to wait to get more clarity about what's happening. Okay, so speaking of Venus, I want to remind you that this month, I did mention it before, but we have 12 beautiful aspects and only 6 salty ones. So the general harmony of the month is increased as a potential. And if you watch through all the different segments I'm going to put in here and get to the end, I'll give you all those dates that are sweet aspects and all those dates that are challenging ones. But the one that I'm going to focus on now is my favorite one, this Venus-Jupiter. So Venus and Jupiter are going to connect at 28 degrees. And this brings for all Libras, all signs even, the chance for more luck. Luck in anything, but especially love, self-esteem, money, investment opportunities, anything having, raises, relationships. So some little boosts there. So the aspect happens around the 24th, depending on your time zone. Sometimes we feel these aspects a couple of days before or after they actually happen. So just kind of be on the lookout in this spectrum of time for these kisses. The early degree placements, let's see, that's going to be near, well, there's basically all early, middle, and late degree placements are going to have the chance for this to occur. So it'll be right there for middle, in the third house. And the early degree placements, you might have this be also in your fourth house because it's on the line there. So for if you're in the early born sector, so the first 10 days of the sign, or September born, then your home and housing sector might be more likely to be brought up, home and family. But really the blessings from Venus connecting with Jupiter can be anywhere, in any field of experience. And for all Libras, there's extra yumminess having to do with communication, having to do with writing, editing projects, ways of expressing yourself, things involving siblings or cousins or grandparents or other relatives. And not as much your parents and kids in this particular sector, but all of the other relatives. And this can also have to do with cars, vehicles, devices. So somebody might give you a car, or you might have some, improvement or something go on in the communication or transportation sector from this boost. And just luck, that's just, I remember very clearly one time that we had this aspect. I was doing something with my family that I hadn't done in decades. It was something we used to do. And just kind of worked out in this amazing way that on the way to the venue, we got free tickets and had great seats. And then this historic occurrence happened while we were there. And it was just harmonious, memorable, and awesome. So just look up for any of those manifestations. Okay, so the last thing that I want to talk about is the eclipse cycle. So I have this multiple fold approach for the eclipses to help you understand. The first thing is I'm going to give you the visual and the charts where they're going to hit in your charts or chart. The second thing is I'm going to show you about this eclipse cycle, give you background about what eclipses can do, this particular cycle, all of the dates of this eclipse cycle, where we're at in the eclipse cycle, and then I'm going to give you details on the placement of what you might are likely to see from this eclipse, okay? So it's going to happen at 4 degrees of Capricorn. The eclipse is actually happening around December 25th or the 26th, depending on your time zone. And so I know, even though I'm giving you the answer to this, I might get someone asking me this, which of course, if someone asks me, I'm not going to answer it because I'm answering it right now. Why, Annie, are you talking about the eclipse in November's report if the eclipse isn't until December? And the answer is because eclipses are very intense astrological events, not just astronomical events. And we often feel the effects, the news, the changes come in 4 to 6 weeks or sometimes more before the actual eclipse. So to be ready for, to understand, to track over time, to be best prepared for that eclipse, we have to talk about it beforehand. Okay? So 4 degrees of Cap. For some early degree placements, could be in the 4th house. For the rest of, so basically early degree placements can either experience this eclipse in the 3rd or 4th house. Early, middle, and late are all going to have the potentials in the 3rd house. So right there. Late degree. So be right there. Okay, so 3rd degree potentials for all Libra placements. Early Libra placements may additionally have 4th house eclipse manifestations. Okay, so now I'm going to drop in the lesson about this eclipse cycle so you can understand it better. Then I'm going to drop in a lesson about eclipses in the 3rd house. And this is going to be for all of you. Very detailed ways that I've seen eclipses manifest in the 3rd house. And if you're an early degree placement, Stay tuned for right after the third house explanation, because I'll give you a very detailed explanation of the potentials in the fourth house, because that is also increased in likelihood for you. Then I will go into the general transits, give you all those salty dates, those sweet dates, and more things, including the transit of Mercury. That is very rare. Okay, so here is my overview for the Cancer Capricorn eclipse cycles. It's always helpful when we're having an astrological cycle that is relevant at the current time to think back to when it happened before, and also to just kind of understand when it's going to happen again in the future. So the last time the Cancer Capricorn eclipse cycle occurred was between 2009 and 2011. And the next time it will happen after now, because we're in it now, is between 2027 and 2029. So what I have here, I'm going to give you a quick overview and timeline of this cycle and show you what we still have left to kind of understand the timeline. The reason why it's important to understand these dates is because there is a storyline that is taking place over the time from the beginning of the eclipse cycle till the end. And the themes were introduced around the time, sometimes a little early, before, so around July of 2018 or a little bit sooner. The themes that came up, that are going to come up and be present this whole time, started to come up. And then at the end of the cycle, many of the things will have resolved or shifted or come to a conclusion, or whatever that turns out to look like. The reason why I spend so much time and energy in the reports where the eclipse energies are more present is because they tend to bring drama, dramatic conclusions, amazing, brilliant new openings, a shuffling around of energy in a very intense, notable way with major trajectory shifts. And because of this, usually at that period of time, things are going on and people are looking around and saying, what the heck is going on? People around me are going through these massive changes. I'm going through changes. Or sometimes you're a space holder for someone else going through changes and not the one having them. But it's like there's something that seems like it's, in the air, and it literally is in the sky, and it is literally down into our experience. So there's this massive shuffling around of energy. So that law that says matter is not created nor destroyed, or can't be created nor destroyed, it simply changes form, is very much evident at eclipse time. So things will be taken away from a certain area, so they'll be eclipsed out, and then energy will be added in to a new area where these new openings will come as things are crossed out. So that's the typical just general storyline. So as we get closer, and I usually use 4 to 6 weeks before and after each actual eclipse date as the hot spot, I call it, for the eclipse news. But anything related to any of the themes that are going on for this eclipse cycle can happen during any of this time. It doesn't have to be only right near the hot spots, but the odds are greatly increased that news, events, changes, breakthroughs, openings, closes will occur as we're closer to these dates, and that's why they're important. Okay, so July 2nd, 2018, then January 5th, 2019, and then the most recent ones before now were July 2nd and July 16th. If you want to go back to understand those eclipses and try to make more sense of things that occurred then, you can find the information about what house, meaning field of experience for your sign, the eclipses hit for, okay? So basically, the Cancer Capricorn polarity brings tendencies for certain changes to all signs, and they would have to do with the energy of Cancer and the energy of Capricorn. So every sign has had an increased chance of a lot of shuffling around, notable changes, drama, conclusions, new beginnings in the house of home and family, and in the energy of work and your place out in the world, and the dynamic and push and pull between those places, and energies of mother and father and parenting and maternal energy and paternal energy and your inner authority, your outer authority. every sign has been having storylines from this eclipse cycle in those polarities. But when it's eclipse time, I also drill down into the houses that they occur for each sign. And that gets even more specific about how it affects you when you were born, what your rising sign is, what your moon sign is. You can look at these reports to drill it down even further. Okay, so for the July eclipse, if you look at my June report, and this is 2019, you can get more insight into that. And then for the July 16th eclipse, again, these happened already, but sometimes retrospectively going back to have understanding is helpful. You can see my July 2019 report for that. Now, bringing us to the present time, we're in the November report, and I am going to be talking about this December 25th eclipse. Depending on your time zone, that might actually happen on the 26th, but in either case, it's at 4 degrees of Capricorn. So to follow this general drop-in, I'm going to show you where in your personal charts this eclipse is going to hit and what things you can expect with that. Then probably the December report I'll devote to talking about Jupiter moving into Capricorn. There is a chance I might talk about the January of 2020 eclipse in the December report, but I'm not sure yet. So, check out the December, and then definitely know by the January report I will be telling you where this January 10th eclipse will be hitting for you. And then the last eclipse has happened. So you see I have these kind of grouped this way because this is one set. And then this is the last set here, June and July of 2020. So those dates will end out this whole cycle, and things that began here will be getting wrapped up, moving along. And so you can kind of understand that where we're at. So the story in many cases is not done yet. Maybe there will be some kind of conclusion or final chapter that occurs, and then maybe, these ones here are the integration time or follow-up things or something like that. But for the most part, we're in a storyline that's still in process. And regardless of the finality or the occurrences that happen at this time, probably we're going to need until the end of this cycle in order for us to see the conclusion of the story that we are almost done with. So now I'm going to show you the charts of your particular sign and show you what houses or fields of experience this December 25th, 26th eclipse is going to occur, and what themes specifically you can expect with that. Eclipses bring major changes, major news, and major events. And although sometimes we observe other people having the changes and we're holding space for them, very often we are the ones that are having the changes when the eclipses occur in these certain placements. When there's an eclipse in the third house or Gemini, one of the sectors of life that is very much brought into the forefront is communication. So this can be interpersonal communication, the way that you relate to others, your communication style. I very often will talk on this topic about how our nervous system has been imprinted with the tones, with the things said and not said by our parents or primary, child rearers that get laced into our way of talking. And so going deeper into how, in many cases, violence is just imprinted into our language, whether it's passive aggressive or, if a parent is stressed and it goes into the speech and the kid gets imprinted with it, then it rolls into our communication style. So in-depth opportunities to look at how we're communicating. And again, this comes up at this time, but it has to do a lot of times with how we experience someone else. So if we think they're being harsh or they're not being fair or they're being, in a certain way, sometimes those things can serve as reflectors for us at this time about our own personal communication patterns. And the more we can own that, if we're having communication issues with other people, that we can own our part of it and where it came from and how we're attracting it in, the more we can use the opportunity that comes at this time with the eclipse cycle. So interpersonal communications, I always like to recommend the book Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg, where he outlines this, plus a plan to shift it. I really love his work, because he gets people together that are basically warring with each other, sometimes very seriously warring with each other, gets them in the same room, teaches them this communication system in order to help people get better outcomes, to reach common goals with their communication. So that's a big one that I see. Devices are another part of this. So, issues with devices, dropping phones in toilets, having new devices, having to have them or choosing to upgrade, or any kind of change with communication. Anything having to do with systems, your system of communication with people. So how, email, ways that you go, texting, ways that you go about communicating. So notable things occurring there, or changing how you relate to those particular ways. Something else that comes up a lot with third house eclipses and Gemini eclipses is transportation and mobility. So the modes of transportation, issues with a car or other vehicle, getting new ones. And again, I always talk about this. Eclipses often bring in new devices or transportation pieces, but definitely also pay attention to the time that it's occurring. So, if it's a personal planet retrograde, which I speak to more in the horoscopes, it may not be the time to voluntarily make a purchase, but if you can just, watch the general transits as they relate to the eclipse season and time your purchases if possible, that can be helpful. But in general, this topic will come up. It's a time to not ignore when your car is doing something weird. That's the bottom line. It's a time to make a pledge to not text and drive, and remember that before we could text and drive, we didn't. So therefore we still can manage to get from place to place without texting or even talking on the phone, anything that can interfere with the driving, because this energy can increase the energy of accidents. And so even if you're walking or biking, avoiding being distracted while those things are happening, look to, be extra careful with your physical body as it relates to other people moving and you moving around. This energy also has to do with physical mobility. So if there's been an injury, sometimes there's an injury from the eclipse or related to the eclipse, or sometimes there's a healing moving along a continuum of regaining mobility, a different chapter of mobility. Writing and editing and some different aspects of your expression can come up at this time. So writing projects and opportunities. Also, relatives that aren't parents or kids are related to the third house in Gemini. So cousins, siblings, aunts, uncles, things like that are in this house. So notable connections with these people or opportunities or progress along a continuum can often come in as a third house eclipse chapter. Gemini can also relate to social settings and some aspect of, relating in a social scene. So notable interactions in the social scene can also come up at this time. So a quick summary of some of the ways to best use this energy is to respond to the things that occur. So if there's a symptom, if something's going on, look into it. Pay attention to the opportunities that come and take them seriously. And follow your hunches in these areas. Make a promise to yourself for accountability. So, ask yourself how you are the common denominator in your interactions, and do whatever is relevant to the situation to own your part and to work with your part of the dynamic. Pay extra special attention as you're moving around and have much extra care and extra focus. And be prepared to blow the dust off of old writing projects or start new writing projects or get down into the cleaning up of communications or other writing projects that have already been in process. Okay, so eclipses tend to bring changes in trajectory, new opportunities coming to fruition of things in process, surprises, drama, bright openings, notable things in the forefront of home and family, and some other headers. So we're going to look at some common ways that I have seen the fourth house or Cancer eclipses manifest. Home and housing. So many people will move during an eclipse cycle where there's a fourth house or Cancer eclipse, moving to a new place. Some people, this will include like a bilocation or a multiple location. Like if you have a house already, you can set up a second residence or a different residence in addition to the one you already have. For some people, it manifests as just a complete, clean, different move. Sometimes it's a temporary move or a temporary change in housing. This energy very much can rule sales, or sales or purchases of homes, getting a home ready for sale, purchasing a new home. Even though eclipse time very often brings these into the forefront, definitely always pay attention to the other information I give for the horoscopes at that time to understand how other transits that can be occurring at the same time as the eclipse season can interfere or enable contractual arrangements and big steps. Very often, a fourth house eclipse will have to do with the changing of occupancy within your home. So let's say you're there and you stay there and the house is the same, but someone moves out or someone moves in. Or you start using your home for home-based business. The starting of a home-based business is very common. Bringing on, an Airbnb or any other home-based business where you're working online. Making repairs or making additions or changes to the home. And again, with these kind of things, definitely pay attention to the other aspects of the time because, minor repairs can be fine at any time, but if you're going to do major additions, there are other astrological factors that I always speak to in the horoscopes that can be relevant. But I do see these eclipses tend to bring movement along these fronts with things like this. Changes in or notable things going on in family, and that's your family that you live with or your family that you came from. Drama, solutions, healings, people getting married, so there's new entrances to the family, people having separations, new children coming into the family. I see a focus on ancestry and genealogy come up very often in this. You might find out you have a relative that is notable. You might connect with someone in your genealogy. You may become really interested in tracking your ancestry or genealogy. Or someone may contact you. Childhood psychology is another thing I see come up. There are rhythms at play in our lives, and and things tend to be cyclical. So the things that you're experiencing now, a lot of the ways that you feel right now, you felt as a child, and that had to do with childhood imprinting and many other factors. But the relationship between what you're experiencing now and what happened as a child, and possibly even prior to, if you believe in past lives or if you believe in genetic memory manifesting as our experience. So, attention to what's happening now as it relates to the past and doing inner work to help stop the cycles for yourself and your family. So that I see that often come up with the fourth house eclipses or Cancer eclipses. So in general, with the fourth house or Cancer eclipse, be prepared to focus on your inner world or the things closest to you, like home level, family level, history, and your emotional or inner space. Okay, so I'm going to give you the visuals on the general transits that will affect all signs for November 2019. And definitely remember that what I'm giving you here is a summary of some of the things to watch out for. If you want a more complete written list of the general transits that are most notable and the energies and potentials that go along with them delivered into your inbox 1 month early, then definitely go to AnnieHelpsYou.com. And at AnnieHelpsYou.com, you can sign up for my free email newsletter. Annie Helps You, that's supposed to say YOU. It's not legible. Then you sign up for my free email newsletter, and I will send you a written report about this general transit energy a month beforehand so that you have it for your planning purposes and you have it, as a visual. Okay, so like I mentioned, the first thing to know about this month is that there are around 12 awesome aspects and around 6 more challenging ones. So whenever we have a month where there's like double the nice ones compared to the challenging ones, then it sets a tone for the month that is super sweet. Now, as I always give this disclaimer, I will give it again. The general transits are just that. They're general. They're happening. This is one layer of absolute truth that is occurring for everyone. But your personal chart, the way the planets are hitting in your actual chart, which we can't see a lot of that. We can see the sun sign, the rising sign in the horoscopes, but there are all these planets here in your chart. And the way that the current planetary arrangements are hitting all of those planets for you could cause you to have a different experience than is the general theme or mood, okay? But now back to, speaking about this general mood, it's super sweet because we have so much more of this sweet aspect energy. The second very important thing to remember, and we'll look at this in the chart, is that Mercury is going retrograde. I talked in detail about Mercury retrograde in October because I always talk about things early because we feel them happening early. So between October 31st or November 1st, depending on your time zone, Mercury is actually going to start its retrograde process. On October 12th, it started its pre-shadow or its pre-transit shadow period. So every day from October 12th through the 31st, we were going deeper into the energies of Mercury retrograde, which is why I talked about them in the October reports. But now, on these days, it's actually occurring. Okay, so this Mercury is going to go back. Now, again, you see this, we're not looking at, we're looking at not the house configurations for this chart because we're not looking at a certain sign. We're just looking at the mathematical relationships between the planets. So this reading is for everybody. So Mercury is going to go back from 27 degrees of Scorpio back to 11 degrees of Scorpio. And so if you have any placements that are between 27 and 11 degrees, that especially in mathematical, connection to Scorpio, then is going to be more intense for you. And I did talk about more of those details in the October reports for all signs, but just to kind of, have a guideline here. Since it stays retrograde until November 20th, the whole mood of the month has to do with things from the past. Now, some new things can pop through, but there's going to be this strong theme of energies from the past. So I'm calling it sweetness from the past because there's so much sweetness and the energy is tilted, backwards. Now, we also talked about the fact that there are eclipse rumblings, and there are because as early as November, you may start to see some eclipse news come in, but you can definitely look to the sign reports, individual sign reports for November to see where they're going to hit for each of your signs and also have an overview of this eclipse cycle. The days of the sweet aspects, okay, so we'll put our big smiley face here. Okay, so November 3rd, 8th, 9th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 23rd, 24th, 26th, 28th, 29th, and 30th. Sometimes the energies from the transits that happen on a certain day can be felt before or after that day. So don't hang your hat too closely to the exact day, but just kind of know that there's a lot of sweetness around the days here. The challenging ones are on the 5th, 11th, 14th, 20th, 24th, and 26th. You notice how sometimes the same day will have, either an aspect that could go either way or multiple aspects, one that could be sweet and one that could be salty. You see that happening actually on the 24th too, and also on the 11th. The 24th of November is one of my favorite days of the whole year because it is the Venus-Jupiter conjunction. And this is very potentially expansive to love, self-esteem, money, blessings, luck, just amazing things coming out of the blue. In this case, since the energies are in Sagittarius, which is, Jupiter rules Sagittarius, so there's some extra energy of Sag in this storyline. There's even potential for more luck, since Sagittarius rules good luck and expansion and things involving education and publishing and traveling and learning and teaching and spiritual evolution. So definitely put a nice big star in the days around here. Now, do remember, of course, like we talked about, there is also a salty aspect on the 24th and 26th. So those things could also be happening, but this is still a pretty powerful aspect to note. Something else really important to note as well is November 11th. November 11th has an aspect that day. The Sun in Scorpio is conjunct Mercury. Okay, so then that day, this and this will get together and amplify each other's energy, bringing potential intensity for better or worse. But occurring on that same day is a very rare transit of Mercury. Okay, so this only happens around 13 times in a century. And the next times they'll happen will be 2032 and 2039. For your reference to think back, if there was anything notable that occurred for you, the last time this happened was May 9th, 2016. It also happened November 8th, 2006, May 7th, 2003, November 15th, 1999. So sometimes it's really helpful to be able to go back and see if periods of time had something noteworthy for you, because sometimes that can help you better understand how the energy may manifest. So basically with the transit of Mercury, for a short time with a telescope, you can actually see Mercury, tiny, very tiny, crossing over the path of the Sun. So that's a pretty cool astronomical occurrence, but it also turns out to be energetically a very cool astrological occurrence. And so, it just can add to the intensity. And Mercury rules news and travel and communication and devices for that. So breakthroughs in communication, really big news, really big physical shifts, things like that could be prominent at this time. Okay, so those are the things most on my mind, just to give you a summary of this month of the general transits. Definitely sign up for my free email newsletter at anniehelpsyou.com, because you can see more about what I do in that newsletter is all of these dates that I list. I tell you what the aspect is and what kinds of energies tend to go along with them. So I have these all itemized out. Okay, also if you want more information about the month, I do also do written horoscopes at cozybysweetstarlight.com. And they're often talking about different things than I talk about in the videos. Okay, so Cozy by Sweet, this is all one URL, starlight.com. You can get monthly horoscopes, again, around a month early on there to get more information, and you can go to anniehelpsyou.com in order to get more blogs. And actually on Cozy there are also lots of other astrology blogs, astrology for wellness blogs, and other positive lifestyle blogs. And at anniehelpsyou.com I have lots of astrology blogs for the full moon, for the new moon. So I put together lots of things for you to be able to make the most of the energetic potentials. Definitely go to AnnieHelpsYou.com to check out all of my free blogs. You can also check out my Astrology Basics and Beyond course if you want to learn the basics of astrology. If you want to go into an insane amount of in-depth astrology wonder, then you can check out my astrology apprenticeship program that can teach you how to use astrology for anything from self-development, helping yourself, helping your friends and family, to being a professional astrologer full on. I can help you with that. You can check my course out at AnnieHelpsYou.com. I also have a coach certification course. I also have a creating successful online business course that teaches you how to create an online presence and funnel that presence into your paid services so that you can roam free as a bird like I am. You can see I'm in a random place recording because I'm traveling and trying to get these recordings done for you. So you can see all of that at AnnieHelpsYou.com. Definitely check out my husband, B.R. Newman's site, IamHelios.com, IamHelios.com. He is going to soon have a tarot companion guide, an astrology companion guide that serve as your helpers in your study process as well, plus other cool offerings that he has there and a lot of free stuff as well. Go to see my book, Radical Prayer, Transform Your Life in the World in 28 Days. It has become a beloved bedside companion and purse and card-toting companion to my fellow spiritual seekers, so I have heard. So you can see that at radicalprayerbook.com. If you love my shirt, this was sent to me by an amazing woman with an artist with a beautiful story. And she creates these awesome astrology design garments and all kinds of other designs as well. So you can see her story. These are also all hand stitched by adults in Canada. So you can check that out in the notes below this video. So when you click on the ... or more, all of my websites will be there. The link to see more about these designs will be there. I hope you have a wonderful month, and I'll see you next month. Bye.